Welcome back. You're watching Channel 1 Liverpool with me, Rifat Malik. Channel 1 Tobruk. Channel 1 Albert Dock. Time to take a look at the headlines now. It's 10 to 11. I'm Rifat Malik. 9 o'clock. I'm Rifat Malik. Christopher Older was found dead. All political campaigning has stopped. Stand head to head with.
Hello and welcome to the Muslim Viewpoint, a new video podcast series powered by the nonprofit national media platform American Muslim Today. I'm your host, Maya Gaylor, and today we are continuing our Get Out the Vote series. Joining us is River Gassen, the Democratic candidate for Colorado's 5th Congressional District. Gassen is an educator at the University of Colorado in topics such as astronomy and solar energy sciences. She is also currently doing research work with BioFrontiers. We're just going to be kind of going over a few different things, just kind of you personally, your background, kind of why you're running, things like that, and then more specific issues. So if you're ready to go ahead and start, we can go ahead.
So, why I'm running is predominantly because of Roe v. Wade getting overturned, and that really pissed me off. It kind of feels like you can't really be a full American if you're only allowed in certain states, for example. Technically, we're allowed in all the states, but you don't have access to quality healthcare in every state. Women can't feel safe to start families in certain states, and you can't even really accept job opportunities in other states. So it's severely limiting our ability to live that full American dream. And on top of that, you have overwhelming student debt crisis and a housing crisis that's really just handicapping an entire generation from participating in the economy.
And then so kind of right to your role, can you tell us why you specifically would be better suited to represent your community rather than the Republican candidate, Jeff Crank?
Well, as a young person, I am a little bit more intact to what young people are going through right now. And on top of that, I do feel like we need more progressive policies to really pick up our economy. We need to put science in the chair and have science, take the wheel when it comes to who's going to determine what we do with our natural resources, how are we going to prioritize our water. We really need to start to prioritize the environment, what the world's going to have for the future generations.
Right, and then can you tell us, so we are a Muslim-based publication, obviously, so we will ask all of our candidates how you specifically are connecting with this community in your state, in your area, and other minority communities as well. How will you represent their voice?
Yeah, well, El Paso County, Colorado is predominantly white. 15% of the population is Hispanic, and another 5 to 10% is not white and not Hispanic. So it is really a minority, which is really not great. I mean, we have a horrible history of racism here, and with the KKK once being in Colorado Springs. So we have a lot to overcome, but the Colorado Springs that I have seen in the years that I've been here is one that is continuously growing and continuously trying to be better. I think we have some real systemic issues when it comes to younger people of color and women getting into these more complicated fields, and then allowing them to thrive once they are in graduate programs as well, so they can continue to succeed, for example, after they graduate as well. That's going to mean, looking at the housing crisis and the systemic issues behind it, fixing the redlining issues, and it's going to require, universal childcare, adequate funding for public education, and making sure that we have enough for Pell Grants and Pell Grant recipients, so that we can start to level the playing field a little bit.
Yeah, and earlier you mentioned that we should have more science involved in making decisions, just across the board, but especially, when it comes to our environment, and even our own, healthcare. So how can you, as a research scientist, help make decisions on these policies?
Yeah, well, when it comes to healthcare, we do have a severe gap when it comes to age. Younger people are less likely to have health insurance. And, women, and especially women of color, are less likely to be taken seriously when it comes to health crisis issues. If you're a Black woman, for example, you're twice as likely to die in childbirth or even in postpartum, that 1 year after you deliver a child, than a white woman. It's because we're not really recognizing the symptoms when it comes to the health problems of women and when it comes to the health problems of minority, especially. We need to start to invest in research. We need to start to look at what is happening in our society, limiting the life expectancy of some people. And we also need to look at clean water. We need to look at access to food, access to affordable housing, access to adequate education, and all of these that really play into a high quality of life.
Right. And, kind of moving on to more civic social justice issues, AMT focuses on these quite a bit in our writing and in our, other initiatives as well, including gun control. In Colorado, a ban on assault weapons was introduced last year in the state Senate, but it wasn't passed, as you might know. And currently, Colorado does not require a permit for anyone 18 years or older, but does require a background check for private sales. So, if elected to Congress, how would you address the issue of mass shootings, and especially mass shootings involving specifically assault rifles, assault weapons?
Well, the greatest threat we have to losing this Second Amendment right that we hold dear to our culture is if we don't get these mass shootings under control. I have some experience of that as a school shooting survivor. What I don't want to see is another generation, my own future children have to go through what I went through. I don't want to see more kids have to hide in bookshelves for 6+ hours while they're waiting for the SWAT team to come and get them. I don't want to see any more kids have to write on their hands saying, if you see me, know I'm in heaven, because they're genuinely afraid that they're not going to make it out of their classrooms that day. We see too much of that. We've seen that at Columbine. We saw that at Arapahoe High School. We've seen that at so many other schools. Sometimes it doesn't even make the national news because it is an everyday occurrence now. We need to look at what is causing these mass shootings, and a lot of it does come down to enforcement of our current gun safety laws, and we need to look at who is committing these mass shootings. If we want to look at mental health, great. Then let's prioritize mental health. Let's give everyone access to free, high quality mental health care, especially teenagers, and especially teenage boys who are more likely to be the perpetrators of these mass shootings. The shooter of my own high school was an 18-year-old boy, and they are in fact children at 18. Your frontal cortex is not fully developed. We do need to have extra precautions when it comes to 18 and 19-year-olds before they get firearms, because they're more likely to be at risk with them.
Yeah, and several times, as you've mentioned, the economy is an issue for all of us, Republicans, Democrats, people who don't vote. It's an issue on everyone's mind as prices on groceries, medicine, and housing continue to rise. What legislation do you believe is necessary to address the issue of inflation?
Well, I think we have, our interest rates are too high. And I also would go as far as saying our sales tax is too high. Sales tax is impacting individuals who spend their entire paychecks at the grocery store, who spend their entire paychecks, just getting by, compared to people who are putting more money in their savings. So you end up having lower income communities paying more of their income towards taxes than the wealthier Americans. We need to look at taxing the billionaires. We need to look at closing the loopholes that a lot of the elites in our country are finding out of taxes, so that way they pay their fair share and we're not putting that cost on the consumer anymore. We need to lower the cost of food, quite frankly. Food and water is a human right, and we need to make sure that it's affordable for the average American.
Yeah, and in regards to a more global issue, an issue that AMT has covered quite extensively, the ongoing violence in Gaza, but bringing it home, as yourself a university professor, what are your thoughts on the national outcry that we have seen from students on campuses across the nation, calling for their universities to divest and end the violence? And this includes students at Colorado College. So can you just tell us your thoughts on those protests and, the issue that they are raising awareness for?
Yeah, and I do want to clarify, I'm technically a lecturer, not a full professor. I don't have a PhD. So there is a little distinction. I don't want to offend all the professors out there. What I've seen from a lot of students are they're waking up to the terms that our relationship in the Middle East, our relationship with Israel, may not be a healthy one that is purely based on trying to take care of the Jewish people. I do understand that, Iran might attack Israel. They need the ability to defend themselves. However, it has gone too far. When the hospital was bombed and when I saw babies who were unable to be incubated, I saw people like my own mother in there who had to cry over their own infants who couldn't be incubated. And suddenly, I related to that. And I think that's when it went too far, where it looks like Benjamin Netanyahu is not prioritizing civilians. He's not trying hard enough to protect human life in this. And so we do need to be a little bit more critical of Israel right now. Like I said, I do understand that anti-Semitism is very serious, and I don't want to see a rise of that. But we do have to acknowledge that the Palestinian people are, in fact, people who do have a right to live just like everyone else. I think that the younger generations are less likely to kind of define a relationship with Israel just based around why Israel needs to have its own protection. It's a complicated issue, really, because it's hard to say whose land it really is. You know, the Jewish people believe they were there first, thousands of years ago, but then you had people who did in fact live there when Israel was declared a Jewish state. You can't really just take home away from anyone. And so there just needs to be an avenue of peace. And if that avenue of peace is not there, I don't know if this home really needs to belong to anyone. I just don't want to see anyone die, quite frankly, and I think that's where everyone is.
Well, I don't have any further questions for you, Ms. Gassen. Thank you for joining us today. Is there anything else you would like to add about yourself or your campaign?
So this is a grassroots campaign, and we're doing our best here, you know. I want to really just amplify that this is a campaign that is powered by people. And at the end of the day, it's going to be people who vote. The last time we've had an open seat was in 2006, and Democrats did get a 13-point advantage in that election. So we do have a really good fighting chance. I've seen a lot of Democrats in El Paso County. I've seen a lot of Democrats here. And I've seen the town, my own hometown, become more progressive over the course of the last 10 years, even. We're a city that is continuously advancing, continuously trying to grow. And I want to continue to see that go on even beyond November 5th. And I think it will continue to progress.